Now let's turn our attention to the National Youth Games that will be taking place in Delta State, Asaba. Today and tomorrow has been penned down as arrival dates for various teams, and we know quite well that accreditation will take place tomorrow with the opening ceremony on Friday as well. This is meant to be the 7th edition of the Games, and over 4,500 athletes are expected to compete for glory right there in Asaba, Delta State. It is Nigeria's biggest annual youth sports fiesta, and all is set to host all 36 states, including the Federal Capital Territory, over the course of 8 days across 34 sports. Now, joining me to discuss this and what it portends for Nigerian sports as a whole is Deji Ogeyingbo, who is a sports journalist. Deji, good evening. It's good to have you on the show.
Good evening, Samson. It's great to be on the show.
Thank you so much. Let's delve into it quickly. The annual sports, youth games, this time around, it has a different feel. Is it because it's Asaba that is hosting, or it's all about the, enthusiasm that this tournament generates? What are you expecting from the games itself?
Well, Delta State has always been at the forefront of championing sports in Nigeria. The National Sports Festival itself has always seen the state come out tops the last 3 to 4 editions, and they invest a lot in sport, and that's why, for the most part, they've taken up the mantle to host youth games as well as the National Sports Festival itself. So this is like the junior version of National Sports Festival, and they invest a lot of resources into it. I mean, other states, a majority from the southern part as well as north central, all put some sort of resources into participating in it. And I dare say it's even more important than the National Sports Festival itself, because you see a lot of kids that go to the sports council in each of their states to participate in various sort of events, like handball, volleyball, wrestling, track and field. This is their chance to express themselves. And a large chunk of some of the global stars that we have now, that top names when it comes to sports, once passed through these youth games. I mean, I could mention a few from track and field, the likes of Insel Malbong, who eventually went on to become the triple gold medal at the World Athletics Junior Championships in Nairobi 2 years ago. She dominated the youth games for like 2 years in a row. She was first discovered by Akwa Ibom in their school before she represented the states at the youth games, I think, in 2018 and 2019. Same thing with Odunai Adekure, who was championed wrestling for Nigeria in Olympics as well as Commonwealth Games. So it's a discovery ground. The question is what we do with the discovery in terms of development afterwards. Very few states have got the resources to be able to take the next step, but it doesn't mean they should be scrapped. Let's even discover them. It's better than not even doing anything at all. And I think that's the whole idea of the youth game. And Delta State has taken it upon themselves to host it. They've got top class facilities. I mean, I'll give them that alongside Edo State. I recall Edo State hosted the last sports festival. The two from the previous sports festival in 2021. So it's a situation where they've been taking this step consciously to invest in sport, and now they've taken the mantle to host the youth games, and I know they will deliver a very decent games for the next couple of days.
Okay, you touched on Delta State having all of the facilities to host such a sports fiesta. We know quite well that there's a 4-year deal with the sports ministry to host the youth games. Now, you touched on something sensitive earlier, which has to do with not just discovering these talents, but ensuring that there's progression in terms of monitoring and developing, supervising, ensuring that they have that career growth. What do you think has been the bane over time, why this hasn't been the case in terms of discovering talents, but not seeing them live up to their potentials?
Well, manpower is obviously the pick of the bunch. Next one is obviously resources as well as infrastructure, right? And they all work hand in gloves. The manpower is crucial because we need the right personnel, starting from coaches, to be able to develop athletes at this crucial stage. And that's where it's important for them, where they learn the rudiments of the sport itself. Because in the transition to become global stars, they need to be able to compete with their peers at the Olympic Games itself, and that's where they falter. So for a large part, we've outsourced that development to outside. So, for example, in track and field, I can tell you for free that potentially half of the athletes that will be discovered in track and field will probably get scholarship to United States College, where they would go and continue their career there, schooling as well as developing their talent. Same thing, you can say the same thing for basketball, potentially for wrestling too. I love what Bayelsa State government have done with wrestling.
Yes.
Daniel Igali, the chairman, has really invested a lot, also coming from Bayelsa State government, but it's not enough. Do we have resources in all of the regions in Nigeria? That's far-fetched. We don't, especially up north. We can't beat our chest and say that we've got it. I mean, we know Kebbi states have invested a lot in handball, but how much resources have they poured into to be able to compete globally at the world stage? You need competitions, and it's obviously involves resources. How much is being pumped into it? They tell you to even train at Olympian for a 4-year cycle. You need nothing less than $50,000. Most sports councils don't even have that money in 10 years.
With.
So how do you even train one Olympian? So it's a combination of...
Let me butt in, please.
lack of...
Okay, I'm sorry I have to butt in because of time, but quickly in about 30 seconds so that we can wrap this up. We'll definitely have you subsequently when the games are, on rather in their thicks and thorns. But quickly, how do you see this panning out in terms of, players developing these stars that will be discovered at this tournament? You said earlier that half of them will probably go abroad in terms of scholarships and what have you. Should we adopt that policy here as well so as to keep the very best of our athletes and see them nurture in terms of education and sports, combining both together?
We have no choice, really. It's a situation where we cannot develop them, and we don't have the resources to develop them. That's just the reality. So the very best of them that get scholarship, let them move. Toby Amuso is a case in study. Ogeyingbo is also a case in study. These people need huge funding to be able to get to the peak of their talent. And obviously, the very best will be churned out from the youth games. And it's now left for the coaches and the people that would scout them to understand their development process. The sort of money that the Ministry of Sport now will pump into each of this ministry to ensure that they develop them. It's absolutely key. We have to accept that we're a third world country. We don't have the infrastructure to develop them to that level. We don't have the manpower. So until we get to that level, we have to outsource the development process of these young kids that will be discovered.
Okay. Thank you very much for your time on show this evening, Deji.
My pleasure.